Hello and welcome to Florida Football's 2022 Offensive Scheme Review. I'm your guide on this journey, SEC StatCat, Clark Brooks. So in this video, we're going to try and sum up Billy Napier's first Florida offense in 3 words, examine its first and third down approach, as well as drawing up its core run and pass staples and examining some core tactics that may or may not have worked while transitioning out of the Dan Mullen era. So the first word that comes to mind when trying to sum up this modern run-first attack is extraterrestrial. When you have an alien of a quarterback, it makes sense. Anthony Richardson has just mouth-watering traits and size that hopefully can lead to a fruitful professional career. Of course, while at Florida, things were a little bit iffy. But looking at him specifically in areas that can try and elevate play compared to the average, combining sacks and scrambles into one box, only Jaden Daniels totaled more total yards, and basically he led the SEC Anthony Richardson in yards per attempt and success rate on such plays. Moreover, looking at his massive arm strength, he was able to accumulate the conference's second most deep passing yards. But the other side of the coin for extraterrestrial is this offense's usage of orbit motion. Yeah, that's a little out of this world, isn't there? So sending long looping at snap motion behind the backfield as opposed to in front, like you would see on jets, returns, and shoots. So 11% of their snaps used orbit motions. That practically doubled the next SEC team in line in meaningful minutes, meaning up or down 18 points. So, and looking at true at snap motion, truly rounding out this razzmatazz, otherworldly type of attack, 29% of snaps, only Kentucky outmatched them within the conference. The second word that comes to mind is interconnected. So while the overall product left plenty to be desired with a success rate around 40%, not great, the ideas themselves complemented each other fairly well. So we're talking about looking at the core pass concepts. I mean, you can look just behind me. A lot of these had intermediate crossing designs, and they were used in different ways to try and stress different levels of the defense. Whether it was single high off the normal weak side flood actions, you're trying to test the lateral bend of coverages. If you're having a Yankee shot, you're testing the back end's eyes, whether to cap that cross or stay back to prevent the deep shot. So whether it was Yankees, play action bootlegs, or true cross patterns, they fit together oh so well. And of course, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, how they all work together, but when you also consider that only Tennessee had a higher true play action rate than the Florida Gators, considering that their RPO rate was top 4 in the SEC, seeing that their run pass ratio in meaningful minutes was right around 50%, there was a lot of balance and a lot of interconnected ideas within this offense. And the final word I'm going to settle on to sum up this offense is physical. That's what happens when your 2 lead running backs top the SEC average and not only broken tackle rate, but yak average and explosive run rate, or going for 10 yards or more. So that is just running forcefully, taking it to opponents, not shying away from opportunities, and then continuing to be productive after engagement. But looking at the other side of that recipe, the offensive line, only Georgia and Alabama produced a preferable rush yards before contact clip in our meaningful minutes than the Gators last season within the SEC. And looking at other team stats, so pressure rate allowed and negative play rate, really trying to impose your will and make sure you're not moving backwards, whether through run or air, top 5. So yes, a physical offense that leaned on its offensive line from time to time to try and generate explosive gains on the ground. Of course, you can't ignore Anthony Richardson's physicality as well. So were the guises that Napier featured transitioning out of the Mullen era effective? I already mentioned top 4 RPO rate, top 2 play action rate, top 2 at snap motion rate. Again, overall success rate left plenty to be desired. And when examining these guises, yeah, it was still kind of a mixed bag. But let's start with play actions. They definitely worked. 11 yards per attempt, around a 53% success rate in our meaningful minutes on drop back play actions. However, when not using them, Anthony Richardson's efficiency fell off a cliff. You can see the team production here as well as his individual statistics. A high drop rate consistent with or without play action, but still demonstrably different passer when using that aspect than with not. Then looking at RPOs, again, high volume of these type of designs, trying to stress defenses inside the box and on the perimeter, trying to find a win with this modern day triple option. Unfortunately, despite having one of the highest usage rates in the SEC, Florida finished bottom 3 in both success rate and yards per attempt on these snaps. Not what you like to see whatsoever. So that is a major area of opportunity for this offense moving forward. And then looking at snap motions, did they help? Run game? No. Their efficiency dropped, their rush yards before contact dropped, and on first downs, a horrible 27% success rate when using at-snap motions. So when you have a 44% pass rate to start a set of downs, and you see those horrible returns, it's not hard to imagine why they found themselves behind the chains quite often. But then, looking at the pass game, yes, at-snap motions, like play actions, help tilt defenses, diagnose them before the ball is snapped, and give Anthony Richardson keys on where to go with the ball. They were over 7% better in terms of success rate and over 1.5 yards better in terms of yards per attempt. Only 2 other offenses were better in that regard than Florida. So while Dan Mullen was more of a matchup-based type of play caller, once he determined his team could not run things, he moved on trying to find other looks, but it looks like Napier is more systematic in this regard again, with a complementary approach across all those concepts. Florida's first down offense tried to lean into those deception-laden tactics. Again, the results left plenty to be desired. At snap motion generated a 27% rushing success rate. You're looking at their 2 main rush concepts with or without motion, both below 40%. In fact, their overall rushing and passing success rate in our meaningful minute sample here to start a set of downs, both under 39%. None of their 6 main concepts generated a higher success rate than 48%. So, yes, it's easy to see why things just did not work because the execution was not there. And when looking at these concepts, they basically accounted for 56% of Florida's first down offense. Again, when you run a lot of stuff and you're not particularly good executing them, your down-to-down results are just going to be sour. No doubt about it. Still, the ideas were fairly strong. Atop this play sheet, you had inside zone slam read. After that, outside zone off tackle. Again, inside-outside zone approach. You had only 2 concepts, them, generated over 30 attempts. And then when rounding out this script, it's nice to see with that high play action rate, their 3 main pass concepts all leaned into that tactic, whether they were bootlegs, Yankee shots, or sail skipper patterns. And when rounding out the ground game, inside zone splits, either with or without read option aspects, in addition to outside zone reads, were the next 3 concepts in line. Again, execution was not there, but in terms of the overall philosophy, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a big concern moving forward. Florida was a fairly average third down offense within the SEC this past season, and that's despite the fact that their early down offense generally set them up to fail. So, the best third down offense is an offense that can avoid third down the best. I'm sure you have heard that saying before. So that usually means set up short porches and avoid behind the chain situations. Unfortunately, no SEC offense had a lower makeup of third and short than the Gators. Only 19% of their money down tries had 3 yards or less to gain. And on the flip side, looking at behind the chains, 6 yards or more to gain, only 2 other offenses top them in that regard. In terms of average distance to gain on the money down, bottom 4. Again, setting themselves up with a high degree of difficulty. So it is amazing that their 41.9% success rate was right on par with the SEC average. Looking at things, they did like to favor the ground a little bit more than the average bear. But in terms of script, sail, mesh, all verts, play action bootlegs, slants, and smashes all generated at least 5 targets in our meaningful minute sample here. So that's roughly around 40% of their play calls when you throw in inside zone bluff reads in addition to inside zone slam reads. So certainly they help buoy the short yardage tries, but when behind the chains, sails and skipper patterns more than doubled the next concept in line. Again, still relatively average, but still, all in all, is nothing worth bragging about. All right, that was some of the macro ideas behind Billy Napier's offense. Now it's time to dive in and examine the concepts themselves, starting with the ground game. So this is a zone-heavy approach. Only one gap scheme had a video series dedicated to it. And with all due respect to outside zone read and some counter looks, we're only going to focus on looks that generated at least 18 reps in our meaningful minute sample. So let's get started with the inside zone slam read. In this zone-heavy run scheme, straight inside zone reads, or slam in my vernacular, just edged out split zone reads as this offense's foundational look in our meaningful minute sample. But a 40% success rate should tell you, left plenty to be desired. So here is a rep with at snap motion. Of the 80 or so featured snaps, 23 featured at snap motion. So this started off really hot, really nice returns. But of the last 11 reps using at snap motion with this concept, only one worked. But we're going to focus on reps that work here. So in our box, we're going to have our zone flow working towards the left. Left tackle on the edge, left guard straight up to the second level, center on our interior, combo block on the backside working up to that linebacker, tight end on that edge. Technically, this corner is our read man, but you'll see how the motion will pull a defender over and force a back end rotation. So most offensive coordinators, especially on first down, if you have a read aspect and you recognize it's going to be a two deep shell, defense is naturally going to have a vulnerability in the box, so they will tell you just to hand that sucker off, and that's what we're going to do here. You're going to see his eyes up, but still, great job from our offensive line and a pretty easy decision to hand this puppy off. So we'll watch it play out. Again, defenders being pulled across the formation with our jet motion. You can see him bail back, him bail back. So, like I said, everyone does their assignments as they are supposed to. We get reaches and seals on our second level with him basically getting kicked out. And our seal here, our hole is there. And since our other blockers get up to the second level, no one can come down the line of scrimmage to make a play. So, you'll see here, eyes are up, reading our edge defender. Pretty easy decision to hand that puppy off. Like I said, really wide run lane. And with our wide receivers getting downfield and engaging as well, it's just a very nice rep. Even though it wasn't particularly too consistent or potent on the year, you got to like this rep. So even at the end of the day, at snap motion usage, 40% success rate, right on par with the overall clip in our sample. And only 13% of these runs went for 10 or more yards. So that was definitely below average as well. Here's another example of an inside zone slam read using at snap motion to its advantage. This time we're using shoot or escort motion. So unlike other forms of eye candy that are just mostly just attacking the flat, just trying to draw attention, shoot motion becomes functional blocking. So you're moving him from one side of the formation, giving him positive inertia and curling him up in a blocking assignment, trying to get numbers quickly in space. So you've seen a few other offenses across the SEC try this, especially on perimeter screens, but here's an example with a bubble screen. So with that, it's going to widen our defense and help create a great number situation in the box. Like our previous example, two deep safeties. Most offensive coordinators will tell their quarterback just to hand that off, even if there is a read aspect on the play. Technically, I think this man would be our read defender, but we'll see how it all plays out. Bump these three guys out, so it's 1, 2, 3 against 4. Defense has us capped over there, so again, fairly easy decision to hand it off with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders in the box, 5 linemen, and our 1 ball carrier. Advantage offense. So it's not the best form of zone, but you'll see how our front 3 guys at least engage and a hole manifest, and a really good job from our right guard, Osiris Torrance, to get up to the second level and seal our remaining linebacker in the box. So a little kick out here, engagement here. They're both kind of stifled, so that then creates our cutback. But since we have a little bit of an engagement here, we're still able to hit that front side A-gap. So we'll watch it play out. Again, really good job from Georgia's front here to force the blockers back. But still, we do engage, and we are able to get a hat on a hat and find that crease. That is a small crease, but just because we're able to engage, kick out, there's our hole. Safety's too far back to plug. Again, linebacker taken out of the play either by motion or our backside combo. We squeak on through, and we get an explosive carry. Split zone reads, or Bluff in my vernacular, came next on Florida's script. And like their brother concept slam reads, a decent amount of at-snap motion usage. So here's an example with jet motion, and it's going to create a quarterback keep opportunity. So the difference between split zones and straight zones is what our split flower does here. So normal zone flow, everyone's comboing, working the same way. Here, he's going to fire against the grain, creating a hard edge, in addition to our normal combos. In theory, if they were stuffed and we needed a place to go, this has a built-in cutback lane, assuming we can get a wash down to basically create a new hole on the backside. But here is an arc technique where we're using him to bypass that edge and go upfield. So with our edge defender being our read man, he's going to collapse with that zone flow towards the left, and that's going to create a lot of space for a Anthony Richardson keep. This is going to go for a 60-yard touchdown. In general, like its sister concept, the inside zone slam read, quarterback keepers definitely help buoy the down-to-down operation. So we'll draw it back up here, and we'll talk through the numbers. But 11 quarterback keepers for 129 yards. 3 of them went for over 10 yards, and it had a 64% success rate. So all in all, around a 49% clip in our meaningful minutes, below that 50% barrier, but still one of the more consistent avenues from this offense on the ground. But don't doubt that the quarterback aspect helped buoy things. So with this rotation, too deep, but it's just going to be a really, really easy decision for Anthony Richardson to take advantage of all this green grass. So we'll watch it play out. See how the defense is definitely eyeing the zone flow. You get them occupied, bypassing him. He's eventually going to engage on a play side safety, but there's just not too many defenders out here to corral Anthony Richardson's awesome athletic ability. So bypassing our edge again, going up to space, engaging, just so much room for Anthony Richardson to get the long touchdown run. Here's a short yardage example of an inside zone bluff read, this time with an RPO. So RPOs made up 60 of the 67 sample reps of this concept, and almost half of these 60 were tunnel screens like we see at the top of the screen. So easy decision with a 3-on-3 example, him flashing in space and another kind of trailing linebacker. Probably a good idea just to hand this bad boy off. So I mentioned our previous examples were against 2 high safety looks. Here is against single high due to the short yardage situation. Defense wants to have as much defenders near the line of scrimmage as possible to potentially force a 4th down try. So yes, the spluff read on running back handoffs, not one of the more explosive looks from this offense. Across its last 26 reps, 0 explosive runs over 10 yards. But here is one early in the season that helps get us a little bit of momentum and set up a scoring try. So we're having our split zoner fire against the grain of the zone flow on that edge. Combo to the second level, take care of the interior, combo to the second level. And it's because how we're able to reach and steal our second level defenders, it's how we're able to spring a big gainer. So again, the defense does a fairly good job to force a handoff situation. And even though this linebacker is unblocked, him sniffing the backside B gap away from where we're going to go leaves him basically unblocked with everyone else getting a hat-on hat. So we'll let it play out. Again, he's flashing the pass lane. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to try that or pull it. So just hand that off to our running back. Watch this play side combo from our right guard, right tackle. Very good job to get up and seal that linebacker from Osiris Torrance. You know, he's one of the best right guards in the country for a reason, folks. His athleticism was fantastic. But you'll see how this middle linebacker kind of bumps inside, and that allows our backside combo to eventually get to him, take him out of the play, and even though it's not the cleanest job from our right tackle, it's not the cleanest form of a tackle either from our defender. We're able to get through the contact and get our big gainer. Here's off tackle that generated 14 explosive carries around a clip 17%, relatively average within the SEC, but one of the more consistently explosive looks within this offense. Most were of the straight zone variety. Only 5 of the 83 featured outside zones without a read aspect, were split zones, but here is an explosive rep early in the season. Speaking of early in the season, of the 83 reps, 21 were the first 2 games of the year. So we'll watch it play out. Up front, we're going to have a much more flat path from our offensive line. Unlike inside zones where we're trying to have like a combo and reach the second level, here we are definitely more preoccupied sealing our play side adjacent gap. So with everyone working flat, working towards the perimeter, if the defense over pursues, that's where you usually see your zone cutbacks that a lot of people like to talk about. And like I mentioned in the other video, when you have that split flow come against the grain, if the defense over pursues, well, you have that built-in hard edge on the backside. But here, we're going to have a fairly good numbers advantage play side. If we were to split our formation in half, we have 3 blockers against 3 defenders. That's what we like to see. And if we can assume we can get a hat-on-a-hat play side, it should work out great for us. So quarterback turns his back towards the defense. Dead giveaway. There is no read aspect. Flat path down the line. Picking up the mess on the backside, preventing this unblocked edge from coming down the line and potentially making a play on a stuffed zone. But you can see how everyone is mostly just trying to secure their gaps. You'll see both interiors here just wash their man down and away. Good patience from our ball carrier to let them bypass him. And then when everyone else scooping, those remaining linebackers were able to get daylight and race for a big gainer. Again, straight outside zones were definitely the majority of the concepts, but here's a very nice example of how split zones showed up occasionally. And for what it's worth, of the 5, 4 went to the left. Okay, here's another example of an outside zone, this time with a straight zone flow incorporating jet motion. Of course, the very idea of this play with a lot of defenders in the box and not a whole lot of defenders on the perimeter, you're trying to get your speed outside of that mess where he can be a little bit more dangerous on the edge. Again, even though this concept kind of leaned into generating more explosive gains, its consistency was pretty bad. Only about a third of them worked in our meaningful minutes sample. And it was generally reflective of at-snap motion usage. So even though the yards per carry was okay, when using at-snap motions, that basically was cut in half and maintained a very poor success rate. So 25 at-snap motions in our sample, 34 across the season. So this is a rare example of it working. So, pretty decent idea. You're going to get the defense kind of looking away from where we're trying to run the ball. Fairly basic football 101 idea, but this is going to be a great example of blocking up front. So with our condensed formations, we're able to get a little bit of a quicker release on these second level defenders with some of our play side receivers here. So at the point of attack, right tackle will wash out that edge, right guard will wash out that interior. He's up to the second level, and it's going to be a really good job again from our backside combo here. Them two taking on them two. But you'll see with this linebacker kind of sniffing the backside, he is going to take himself out of the play. Tackle's going to take on that edge. You'll see our tight end actually widen an arc as if this is going to be like a bubble outlet of some sort. Just trying to, draw a little additional eye candy away from the direction of the run. So we'll watch it play out. Great job. Sealing. And once all of them are basically washed out of the play over here and them sealed over here, boom, we put our foot in the ground. We get north and south, and we get a great carry, taking advantage of all that cushion that was provided for us. So again, it definitely helped generate more explosives on average, but it had a boom-bust relationship with only a 33% success rate in our sample. Here's an example of an inside split zone with fake end-around action. Of the 43 featured snaps this year, 6 had this fake end-around action. A lot of these snaps did incorporate at-snap motion, but Like a lot of other of our looks, not great returns whatsoever. 27% success rate with at-snap motions compared to its already low 31.3% clip in our sample. But here's an explosive rep against the Wildcats. So this tight bunch formation has signified either duo dive or split zone action within the SEC the last several years, and here's an example of it from Florida. So offset tight ends going to fire against the grain, potentially creating that hard edge in case we need it if our zone action does not work front side, but it's going to be a fairly good job from our offensive line here. So that fake end run action just to keep the defense looking in the backfield and giving them an extra beat to diagnose what is going on. So this H will fire against the edge, zone combo here, and then zone combo on the backside. So what happens on this play? Our edge will fire out in addition to our interior. So we kind of wash them out, but we're able to get up to the second level. Tackle gets up to the second level. Very good job. And it's going to be another example of our backside combo doing what is needed to spring this play. So we get shoulders turned, and then we get north and south. So like I talked about, washing those two guys down, and then with them sealed, and then up to the second level, we just have a little bit of a cutback as opposed to hitting front side, a little bit more towards that backside A gap. But with left guard getting up to the second level, wash, and a turn, it works out fantastically to spring our ball carrier and outrun the back end of the Wildcats. So we'll see it again from the backside view. Just watch how the wash downs occur. Boom, boom. And then the seal there, creating a wide lane for us to take advantage of. So the duo dive was this zone-heavy run scheme's most popular gap man blocking attack. So again, a lot of the zone flows have a coordination with the play side action from the backfield. Here, there's going to be down blocks, divergence, and double teams. Duo dive is a gap scheme without a puller. Counter also showed up every once in a while, whether it was tackle counter or traditional counter, read or non-read. They combined for 20 reps, but duo dive had 23. And of those 23, 15 were either in the Southern Florida game or the FSU game. Very centralized to those two games, but a 30% explosive run rate and a 64% success rate, by far the most consistent and potent look, which was a nice compliment, like I mentioned, with the zone flow. So we're going to have gap rules, gap on backer, as opposed to our zone flow combo rules. So we'll draw it up here. We have a play side double team to wash down. Sorry, that's actually right here. Play side double team to wash down, block on, up to the backer, block out, block down, block down. So you'll realize that leaves this middle linebacker untouched, and that's by design. So this is really trying to deal with these guys at the point of attack, deal with them first. And you'll see if the linebacker stuffs our normal run hole, then we'll look to bounce towards the perimeter. But very popular out of these tight bunch formations, the duo dive. So we'll watch it play out. We'll wash our guys down. And then we engage. And you can see how this linebacker is peeking towards that hole. Put our foot in the ground. And then get outside where there's a lot more space to operate. So the duo dive, again, was this offense's best run looks and was commonly deployed out of this tight bunch formation. Here's another example of the duo dive from this tight bunch formation, but this time we're going to have a little bit of a crackback from our Z receiver up to the safety, and we're going to put pressure on this play side boundary corner to be our run filler. Of course, on average, corners are less sound tacklers than safeties, so this is an effective tactic from time to time. You'll see here, he'll bump inside, trying to fill, and then we'll hit the edge. So, again, it's just a lot of bodies at the point of attack. Most of the line will block down, and then we'll have a kick out, and our hole will be at the top of the screen towards this three-man surface. So, unlike zones, again, that have a coordinated flow with the running back, here we're down blocking and trying to hit that edge. So, our 3Ds are down blocks, divergence, or double teams. Again, this is a gap scheme without a puller, so you'll usually see those 3Ds or our gap rules, gap on backer, like we discussed on our previous video. So we'll watch it play out. Little choppiness from the guys up front, but you see how they're trying to seal against the flow of where the running back is going. You get a kick out there in our down blocks here, snaking up to the second level to engage on that safety, making this guy wrong. He'll peek his head inside, and once he does that, we bounce to space. And even though, yeah, he still has an opportunity to make the play, again, less sound tacklers in general than safeties. And with this guy engaging our safety, like I mentioned, that throws off his fill, and it's really tough for him to corral our ball carrier in the open field. So the duo dive, it gained over 200 yards in our meaningful minute sample. It rounded out this offense's most productive look, and when seeing that it was atop of the sheet in terms of success rate and potency, you gotta like it just did a lot of things despite its limited usage, basically centralized to this Florida State game and the Southern Florida game. So this is another vantage point where you can really see the divergence, where the back is working away from the down blocks of our offensive line and how we have a couple of perimeter kickouts to form our divergent hole at the top of the screen here. So good pairing with this zone-oriented attack. Again, this is basically like a built-in cutback lane, but we're just hitting it as opposed to trying to set it up after the fact. So tight end's going to go up to the second level, block him with our kick out, with everyone else sealing inside to hit this avenue at the top of the screen. We hit north and south, we get our space, and we get 6 points. So again, nothing complicated. This is a gap scheme without a puller, but it's a very nice complement for this zone-heavy offense to find north and south runs and give about potency and consistency. Now it's time to take to the skies and examine their core pass patterns. So, like our runs, we're only going to be focusing on looks that generated at least a certain amount of reps or a certain success rate in our meaningful minute sample. So, we're going to leave out the Kelly rail mesh, Haas, and solo slants and focus on things that predominantly featured that crossing route behind me. So, let's get started with their core pass patterns. With an offense that used play action on 35% of its passes this past season, play action bootlegs naturally fit easily within this scheme. So here is one. Waggle, wheelie, waggle in my terminology. This is where you have that fake split zone type of leak action where you just slide on across the formation and you have one of your backside receivers filling out the weak side action with that intermediate cross. So on the play side, this is where you'll see a decent amount of variability from this offense. This one is the wheelie switch, which I have mentioned in a few other offensive breakdowns this offseason as being a potent feature of offenses. So here Kentucky is going to be in cover 3, meaning 3 deep defenders, 4 underneath. But as you can see from the design, we're going to have 2 deep routes against 1 deep defender. With this safety being so far away, it's really tough for him to cap, and plus, as is, he kind of still stays anchored towards the left side of the formation. So pre-snap motion, hardly any adjustment from UK, but you can see he's going out to the flat, he's gaining vertically, and the theory is, unless he can carry this route along the sideline, yeah, this wheel is going to be wide open in a pocket along the sideline with the post influencing this defender towards the inside. So, a fairly good job from this edge from UK. He does bust up our true 3-man high-low, but at least slows him down to prevent a sack as our athletic tight end or athletic quarterback can hit our receiver in motion on the wheel with a nice back shoulder against the cover 3. So we can see it again from this angle. He's going off the flat. He's going back. But we can look, there's a lot of room to play with. He arguably could have hit the post, but rolling right and then throwing against the grain, sometimes not the best idea. And, of course, if you watch this Kentucky game, this is Richardson at one of his most inaccurate. So still a very nice job to hit that strike in the cover 3 void there. Okay, smash variations came next in terms of one of the higher used patterns within the bootleg family here. So 11 reps with the corners concept, but here's one with a kind of a bench return, smash return, whatever your terminology is. So unlike a normal smash where you're just running that hitch or curl. Here, you're helping the bootleg with a little bit of a leverage opportunity. And you'll see here how it keeps our underneath defender from completely selling out towards the flat. The little whip keeps them in space, and since the other deep third defender has to respect the verticality of the corner, it creates a nice avenue for us to hit the ball. So, like the waggle concept, this play action boot will then have a backside crosser on our main route on our on our flood variation here. But we're going to have a little bit of a twig on the front side, unlike a slide. And like we saw on our original diagram, we're having a tackle counter play action. So crucial backside block here, because if this guy gets instant penetration, this could be instantly dead. Obviously, we have a very, very nice alien as a quarterback who could usually erase stuff like that, but it's always nice to cover your butt a little bit. So this twig, for a half second at least, creates or prevents that penetration from the get-go, and then he goes out towards the perimeter to eventually round out our three-man high-low. But you'll see the tackle counter action will influence that man up. Again, it's going to be another example against cover 3. And since this flank defender has a lot of real estate to cover, it eventually works out nice for us. You'll see here how his attention originally is trying to jam our corner. And as we whip, that's just when Richardson is breaking the pockets, and it's his first route in his line of sight in that two-man high-low. And obviously, he had a lot of opportunity to take advantage of it. Here's another form of waggle, this time pairing it with sail. So we're going to create a strong side flood off of a core weak side flood concept. So sail concept, normally either from the backfield or from the slot receiver, you will see the flat route round out that three-man high-low, but we're using that waggle split zone action, sliding from the backfield to create our three-man high-low along the sideline, hopefully to trying to outnumber a zone coverage. But here's an example against cover one man. So one single high safety manned up underneath. So it's just trying to find who is capped, who has the best leverage advantage. So with us motioning in our receiver, we eventually are going to be able to hit our outbreaker, and you're going to see how much space he's able to create himself with a very, very nice lean and break off the space. So he's influencing deep, and since the safety on this pattern, in theory, he would have to probably help out on the crosser to cap it or help out on the vert. So true one-on-one situation for our outbreaker, and it's going to be another good completion for an explosive gain. All in all, 4 explosive gainers across the 46 featured snaps for this play action boot concept. 4 scrambles, one of them going for 10 yards. But again, it's a fairly simple idea since it is just man coverage here. Just look at that space that he creates for himself. Not the best ball, but still enough for us to get an explosive and, set up a scoring opportunity here. So all in all, play action bootlegs, very consistent with a 56% success rate and a core look within this offense featuring play action. So we already examined how sails fit within play action bootlegs. Now let's talk about the concept outright. So this is known as a swapped variation of sail. You'll usually see this from these semi-stack or even true stack formations, and it's where the outside receiver will be the bend intermediate player with the inside guy being the vertical stretcher. But usually to help leverage opportunities, you'll see it's kind of like a deep bench more than, what that sail concept would be if it was run outright. So it just helps a little bit of vertical leverage here. We're keeping our tight end to block, keeping our running back to block. So to fill out the three-man high-low, we're using orbit motion to attack the flat. So very fun idea to use this form of sail in addition to play action bootlegs that we've seen on 8 snaps, 10 attempts of swap sails, 2 of them going for over 20 yards. So all in all, 5 explosives from this concept. So we'll watch it play out here and then watch the all 22 to really give you a good idea how this bad boy comes open. So as he usually is, Anthony Richardson is his best self off of play action. We get a big deep completion. So again, this guy is going in orbit motion. He is going to be our vertical stressor, and he is then going to be our outbreaker. But you will see this technique from this semi-stack set. It is also very, very common to set up what I call a cross swap technique. In my terminology, cross swap, you'll see it from these semi-stack sets. It's switching the responsibilities of the two-man weak side flood you would find on cross normally, like that. But here, again, they're switching responsibilities. So he's going to be bending inside with this guy being the trailer to space. So it's an inherent complement to that. With this guy getting kind of vertical leverage, pretending to be a bang 8 post before snapping back to space. With this guy running like a cross before snapping back to space. It is very, very, complementary to the cross swap concept, particularly from this formation. So watch both of these pass with that concept in mind. So this guy's going to try and carry vertical. It's not going to work out for him. It's going to be a form of cover 4, I think, but with only 3 rushers, there's an extra guy in coverage. So it's tough to say exactly what this is, but you'll see, again, pressing vertically, widening inside before snapping out. Very similar breaks to that cross swap action, and you'll see as the safety flips his hips and redirect back towards outside, and with this guy not gaining vertically, it's a very, very nice pattern for an explosive. Here's an explosive example of a skipper sail. So in my terminology, this is a bend back cross that becomes a sail scissor type of look. In Steve Sarkisian offense, you'll see this labeled as thumb. It showed up in the Super Bowl. It's growing in popularity just because of how it complements flood action. So we drew up how from semi-stack sets, how cross swap designs can get into that idea when you're messing with leverage opportunities. It's the same type of thing, but here, this is from a fairly conventional set. 12 personnel, we're motioning our tight end over, max protection type of thing, but still, off the outside zone action, it is a 3-man high-low read. So in this instance, it's going to be a cover 1-man situation from Eastern Washington. You'll see how this guy gets crisscross applesauce, but the fact is that this safety is anticipating that cross. It makes him come up. And since this guy's playing with outside leverage, he's at least hoping that there's going to be some help over top. Well, with him peeking towards the other side of the formation, we're going to be able to hit our deep post for a very impressive completion. So we'll watch it play out. Again, inside out type of cross action. You'll see on the back end, he's flipping his hips and giving us inside avenue. We redirect, we bomb. There's our middle of the field safety who's supposed to play center of the field. We're clearly beyond that, running down this awesome post. So again, that's the bend back cross with our peak post, testing the middle field leverage. Very nice explosive example of the skipper sail. Of course, a normal sail would look like this. This is just a very nice complement to set yourself up like it's going to be a weak side flood cross before redirecting towards a strong side pattern. All right, Yankee Shots are vertical pass plays that feature an intermediate cross, like a lot of this offense's core concepts, and using a vertical complement on the other side of the formation, commonly a post, corner, or vert. So this is the crosser pattern in my vernacular. This is 2 deep intersecting crosses. Some offenses call this pylon, I believe. So then there would be variability from what happens on the outside. Here we're having a post corner from our Z receiver. So very interesting complement again to the cross swap pattern. Basically same idea, but you're just getting a little bit more variability from what happens on the other side of the formation just to round out and provide other looks to create basically a whole new concept in itself. So I believe this is going to be a form of cover 4 from Tennessee. We'll flip it around and actually see the all-22 here in a second, but 4 deep defenders, him in the flat. So you would like to think that we can outnumber that void of the coverage. And spoiler alert, we are. We're able to hit our overtop cross in that void with these guys occupying deep. So 2 deep defenders, 2 deep routes, they're taken out of the play. And when we add another one to the equation, the theory is if this flank defender cannot gain depth and take it away, it should be wide the hell open. And that's exactly what's about to happen. So play action helps us a little bit, keeps that guy just a step. 35% of this offense's plays were off of play, or I should say passes, were off of play action. So wide open, like I said. So we'll see it from the behind view. Something like that. Just going to be wide open with this guy influenced back and this guy influenced back. So again, the Yankee Shot family is all about testing back ends and trying to make safeties wrong. Here is a Portland concept, which is a deep dig and overtop post pairing. Very similar to Yankees, which is a deep cross. And overtop post pairing, of course, we just saw the crosser variety in our previous video. So here, it's tough to say exactly what the coverage is. We're going to have a man-on-man situation here. Inside leverage from our safeties, inside leverage here, and you're going to see late after the play action, these guys are going to drop, some of these guys are going to drop the space underneath, but clear as day, he's going to follow this dig across the formation, but in doing so, once he gets past the midline, this safety is going to drive to try and cap it, and with our fellow up here playing outside leverage, we're going to be able to hit our post since this safety does not gain ground and cap it towards the inside. So another great example of Anthony Richardson off play action. Another great example of his arm strength. So Portland outright had 4 snaps for 4 targets and 2 explosives. Pretty good rate of return considering its degree of difficulty being a deep pass pattern. So you can see here, getting inside leverage, boom, make sure we cross the line of sight of the safeties. We can see we're playing a little bit of outside before we snap it. You can see our guy's hips and eventually how he's trying to play catch-up right there. Trying to play catch-up. Again, that is our front side safety. That was the safety on the left, and that was the man who followed our dig across the formation. So excellent job of arm strength leading our man to the end zone for the explosive touchdown. So all in all, Yankee Shots, another great way to try and feature facilitating action off of either that intermediate cross, or in this case, using an intermediate dig to test safeties with an overtop post. So 36% success rate in our meaningful minutes across all the varieties. Deep hooks was this offense's most consistent pass pattern in our meaningful minute sample. So we mentioned how Yankee Shots and Sales and Skippers kind of facilitated a lot of these weak side flood combos found within this offense. Well, this is a direct complement to those Yankee Shots and Portland combos. So again, on those, inside dig with an overtop post. Here against cover 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 deep defenders, we're trying to test that, but just hook up to space over top of our 3 underneath defenders. So, again, this was this offense's most consistent and successful pass pattern in meaningful minutes, just being literal pitch and catch sometimes. So, with him playing outside leverage, him playing inside leverage, he has to respect the verticality. We're just hitching up the space, and the play action draws our underneath guys out of the passing windows. So of the 21 featured snaps from deep hooks, 19 were off of play action. All were with play action, and 19 had app snap motion. So here is orbit return motion. Orbit return, just being a little bit of eye candy, additional avenue to get some people working towards the flat to create a passing lane for us to hit. So we'll watch it play out. Again, you can see them stutter step. We're just going up and down, up and down. He's playing outside. Safety's playing deep, but we're able to hook up right ahead of him, step into the throw, and throw a strike for a conversion. So even though it was a really good, solid intermediate pass pattern, only 2 explosives on the season across its usage.
Here's another example of deep hooks against cover 4. Again, overly a 58% success rate in our meaningful minutes here. So it's going to play out exactly like our last one. But this time we're going to have a little bit more of an avenue just because of the alignment of the defense. So here, it's going to be cover 4, guys off screen. But with our safety more towards the middle of the field than over top, it's just more of a true pitch and catch scenario. Again, jet motion, at snap motion, and play action entices our underneath defenders, and we're just going to throw over top. Nothing too complicated whatsoever with this concept. So we'll watch it play out. He comes up but has to bail back. Up. That is one of our safeties. Definitely not in the correct position. It should just throw over top and get one of the rare explosives on this concept. So again, nothing complicated about a deep comeback against sagging zone coverage, but used properly off the play action with eye candy like this offense likes to do, it definitely was a nice element. Smash variations. Forgive me for not being able to find a better clip, but this is an example in medias res after the ball is snapped. It looks like it's going to be a weird form of cover 4 from South Carolina, 4 deep, 3 underneath, 4 rushers. And it's going to be paired here with a slot cross design. So, smash variations, the typical form of smash is an inside corner and an outside curl. You will also see the corners concept where it's a flat and a C corner, so you're inverting that, and then bench, where it's a quick out, and your corner. So that has more leverage opportunities. Obviously, when you're doing multi-breaking routes, you can find holes against cover 2 this way, but here's an example, again, because it's semi-cover 6 type of technique, you'll see we're able to find a void here, hitting our corner, since our safety is concerned about the curl, and our over top safety cannot get over top to cap our corner. So again, forgive me for not having a better clip of this, but smashes in general, they were top pairings with the slot cross design as well as the shallow concept. So shallow concept, stuff like that. And then corners, you saw them on weak side floods, opposite cross as well. Bench was typically seen from like stack sets. For instance, if we were to draw it up, again, to really help with the leverage opportunities outside of the numbers. So again, in this slot cross pattern, pairing the traditional form of smash here with our inside corner and outside curl, you'll see the overtop safety and the flank defender and this bump and run corner come up, so we're able to hit our corner for an explosive. So 3 explosive targets on this season from this concept, and even though this is not necessarily the best tape, it is a good pattern and a good example how it was overly featured within this scheme. Opposite cross to facilitate weak side floods and provide high lows outside of the numbers. Okay, another weak side type of flood action from this offense. We had play action bootlegs, we had the cross concept, and this weak flood pattern. So this is basically cross, our inside, cross, intermediate cross, with our dig to space, hook to space, or bang 8 post on the backside. But we also have an inside shallow, and typically on the backside, the solo route, this was a post, but you also saw corners as well. This is an instance where we're using orbit motion as eye candy and to trigger the back end. So we're going to get a single high zone coverage from LSU, and just hearing that, you should think, oh, our cross is going to come open because this guy is going to collapse down. He has to play center of the field, and unless he's going to stay there and play center of the field, our other guy would then be open if the defense over-rotated. Or, like I said, with that over-top post, if he is there to drive down on this, quite like the Yankee concept and him having outside leverage, that shot play could be there. But again, this goes as intended. Single high, and we're able to hit our zone after the defense rotates, after our orbit motion kind of draws them into their position. So we'll watch it play out. shallow underneath, cross, dig. Occupied by the drag, we then get in our void, and with the safety back, we deliver a strike. Now, it's almost a very good job to recover and almost deflect this from this linebacker, but just a rifle shot from Anthony Richardson right in the face of our receiver in stride for an explosive completion. So this weak flood pattern generated 4 explosives across its 20 featured snaps. Here's the weak side flood pattern cross. So why cross, was made famous from the air raid. That also showed up in this offense in addition to, from empty, this slot cross pattern. So for instance, if this was a normal 2x2 formation, it would also have the pairings from like a slot cross, or a slot fade, I should say, in addition to Hoss. You're just finding leverage on that side of the formation. But this one from empty, one of the more definitely prominent ones. We already talked about how it was paired with the smash variations. So in addition to the up and down normal form of smash, we also saw the corners concept in addition to Hoss and the slot fade like I mentioned. So this is going to be an example of beating single high coverage. So we have one guy, everyone else in man. So he's playing a little bit towards the outside. All we have to do is snap inside and then we win. Theoretically, the only way for that to be stopped is if he beat us over top at the catch point, or if this safety rotated down and capped us. And if the safety rotated down and capped us, the theory behind the flood pattern that this trailing dig would then have a nice void where the guy covering him would be left on the outside hip. So backside guy just runs a curl to space on these patterns. He wasn't necessarily featured so much being the last man in the pattern, but that rounds us out. But it's going to be a nice job just to throw and catch and get our lone explosive target from the cross concept this year. So I'll draw it up one more second in another variation that was seen from time to time, but didn't necessarily generate a whole lot of consistency. So again, we get our inside step, throw, a strike with our safety playing back. So another form of cross that was seen in this offense, again, if we wanted to do a typical formation instead of empty, you have this shallow concept come. You have your cross from your middleman. You have your dig from that. So yes, that looks fairly conventional. But from this guy, you would have a deep corner. So you'd have like a semi-scissor, semi-weak flood, semi-shallow concept all in one. Again, it wasn't necessarily consistent, but I just really like the design, and I hope it shows up in this offense and finds a little bit more consistency moving forward. So whether it is this crazy pattern, this slot cross design from empty paired with smash, or if it was the conventional one from 2x2 or 3x1 cross delivered a 50% success rate in our meaningful minute sample, which cannot be ignored. All Verts was featured on 20 snaps across the season, 16 in our meaningful minute sample, but unfortunately only a 25% success rate. It did generate 3 explosive completions, and we're about to see one against inverted cover 2. So, inverted cover 2, both of our safeties are going to come up and be hook defenders. Our linebackers are going to be those bump and run corner techniques, those guys along the flat. And our deep half defenders are going to be our corners. So that is a bad coverage, just describing that. Trying to defend 4 guys going deep. It's going to be a very easy completion along the seam for us. Again, not overly successful. 0 reps with play action. All of the attempts were from 2x2 or 3x1 formations from 11 or 10 personnel. So only 1 scramble. I find that interesting because typically in this conference, this is a play that likes to break down from time to time, but What a strike from our quarterback to Ricky Pearsall for an explosive. So again, nothing too complicated, considering the coverage itself is going to just create a wide open completion. So again, he's playing deep half responsibility, and there are 2 deep routes. There's just no way he can be able to cut off that route towards the middle of the field. Again, he's playing a little bump and run, and he's coming up to be a hook curl defender, throwing right over top of his head for this strike here. Boom. We'll see it again from this angle. This really does help show off the inverted cover 2 look, which is just a horrible thing to call against all verts. Solo verts were sprinkled in this offense. 21 featured snaps, whether it was a vertical or a post, but these verts had 13 targets for 6 completions, 4 of which were over 20 yards, and 5 of them were in the RPO variety like we're about to see here. So you'll see this a lot of times, when defenses are going single high, especially in the red zone, and you have a one-on-one opportunity, just let your guy go up and make a play. Towards the top of the screen, this was also paired with a tunnel screen off of inside split zone action. So we'll watch it play out. Boom. Nice throw, because the safety is so far away, he cannot cap us over top. So even though he's not, necessarily in terrible position, he just doesn't go outside, and it's just a beautifully placed ball from Anthony Richardson where only his guy can bring it down for the score. So all in all, solo verts, they were fairly successful when targeted, and it did finish as one of this offense's most successful pass concepts, if you can call it that, in our meaningful minute sample with a clip around 55%.
So there you have it. There were some of the foundational looks and key ideas behind Billy Napier's offense at Florida in 2022. Moving forward, I would assume that the system is going to overly remain in place year over year. Let the run game be the driver behind Etienne and Johnson. Sure, you're going to see some fresh faces up front, but looking at Graham Mertz, it doesn't seem to be the passer that you want to optimize with more chances. You want to try and keep him out of harm's way as much as possible and be a complement type of aspect as opposed to the main ingredient. So we are dead even in the offseason. I know spring ball is about to start, but I want to continue to invite you to visit SECStatCat.com, where you can see every passer's pass chart, where you can see all advanced stats across the conference with fun filters to isolate certain situations, so you can see who was the most accurate passer, under pressure, passing deep. You can see which rushers were hit behind the line of scrimmage. You can see who was targeted the most on slant patterns, all that and more. And of course, I also want to invite you to smash a follow at SEC_StatCat on Twitter and this YouTube channel at SEC StatCat. But until next time, I am Clark Brooks reminding you to have a good one.